Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's Pete and Phil, and we're back talking some Deep Space Nine. Let's get the little thing up there. All right, season two, Deep Space Nine retro review. We're talking episodes 17 through 21. I hope everybody's having a good evening. How are you, Pete?
Not bad, all things considered.
Yeah, enjoying the rain. We got some nice rain. I want to thank everybody who's been listening to the podcast, who's following the Strange New World stuff with me and the Deep Space Nine stuff with me. By the way, Pete, you said you weren't really getting into Strange New Worlds, yeah?
Yeah, I don't. I watched the first three episodes, and I thought actually episodes one and three they weren't bad, but they were just like kind of an attempt to recreate the original series, and it's like how I feel about Tarantino. Like, why watch Kill Bill when you can watch like original Hong Kong cinema? Like go to the original. Like don't settle for pale imitations. But the second episode was actually actively horrible. That was awful.
I don't even remember the second episode anymore.
That
That's
was the
the
one where Uhura figured out how to communicate with the
oh,
aliens
singing.
by
Oh,
singing to
yes.
them.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but it is a Trek podcast, so people are watching all these shows anyway. But although I will tell you this: if you're gonna quit on it, quit on it after Memento Mori, because that was pretty good. That was a pretty intense little space battle episode with the Gorn, and it's
Yeah, I
it,
do think they missed an opportunity here to do like new shit with Pike, right? Because he is this iconic character that hasn't had a lot of screen time, and they introduced him in Discovery. But man, we've already seen Pike on the starship, right? Like, what did he do after the Enterprise? Like, did he, go into Starfleet administration? And that would to connect this to Deep Space Nine. I think that would be an excellent chance to bring back like the real politic aspect that Deep Space Nine brought to Star Trek.
well, I'm with you, and that's my biggest critique so far of Strange New World is like I've been saying it on my podcast on Strange New World. It's like I'm boldly going where I've been before. I think it's great for the new crowd, and I get it. They're trying. Well, I mean, they need to get new fans, obviously, like for a
Right.
franchise to survive. So, like when you watch, what was that? The Force Awakens. Yeah, it's a retread of A New Hope, but hey, it's a new generation of fans who maybe will never sit down or hadn't seen A New Hope. So for them, it's fresh. For them, it's new. For people that have watched the original, they're like, okay, it kind of follows a lot of the same story beats. So I get it, and it's well made. At least it's a well made copy of what came before. I just hope it finds its footing, like most Star Trek series. And we said this, guys,
Yeah.
podcast. Star Trek series sometimes take 2 seasons, 3 seasons to find their voice. I think Discovery kind of found its voice in the third season a little bit, you know. Um,
Well, its
and
voice before that was just being all over the place, which
it
was
was
actually
frenetic. It was
also cool. Which was
it
also
was
cool.
insane. I mean, I love
Yeah.
it. Season two is one of my favorite seasons of just any Trek. Season two of Discovery, but it's so fucking insane. But then I think they learned, okay, we can't be insane all the time. So season three onward, it seems like they're balancing a little bit more like the,
Yeah.
the character moments with the crazy action. So it
Yeah.
takes a while. So I got, because the writing is pretty solid. It's well made, good. It's well
Yeah,
acted.
I mean, it's like I
They're going
said,
to
like
find their own voice.
two
They're
of
going
the
to,
first three episodes were actually they weren't bad. It just wasn't like, I've seen this before. Although I have to say, one thing I do like about it is that you got like super macho white male Pike and
yes.
a bridge full of chicks.
I know. That's kind of cool. I only noticed that afterwards, but there's people that notice this stuff, and I was like, ah, come on, guys, But it's kind of cool. As somebody who works, I mean, I have two bosses, and they're both women, and in the one company I work for is all women. The secretary, from the secretary to
Yeah,
the treasury to the two coordinators, the owner of the company. So I'm totally cool working for women. I actually like it, but it's so. Oh, the Star Trek fandom is disappointing me more and more the more the internet exists, because there's
Yes,
so many
same with
butthurt
Star
people.
Wars these days. Oh my
Yes.
god.
No, and that's the thing. It's like for a while, Star Trek fans could at least say that, hey, we're a little bit more civil than Star Wars fans. Because I think even pre internet, I mean, I remember when Phantom Menace came out, there was no internet, but I still knew that the fans really hated it.
Now
So it's like,
there was an internet, but go back to 1983, man. Billy D. Williams had to put up with a lot of shit, man. People actually like took the time to write him letters. It wasn't as easy as like going on
mhm.
Twitter and Instagram and saying like you're a diversity hire. People actually like took the time to hand write him letters and mail them to his fucking agent.
Oh God, that's crazy. Yeah, no. Star Trek has. There's a funny post that people put up for people that complain about new Trek, and it's about how Star Trek fans hated the idea of TNG. Like, how can this be any good? We have this guy who's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a bald guy who's gonna try to be Kirk.
No,
We
people hated that show, man. People
Yes.
hated it when it
So
first
there's
came
been
out.
haters all since forever. It's just that the internet just makes their voices so much louder. And
Yeah.
the complaints are about the dumbest things. Like, there's women on the bridge. Okay, he's on a bridge full of women. Like, okay, next, So it's weird. It's weird and it's sad, but it. I always like to say it's a vocal minority. The
Yeah.
majority of folks are digging this stuff, and I don't think if that many people weren't digging it, we wouldn't have, what is it, like the fifth show already, the fifth Star Trek show since Discovery premiered. Obviously they're making money because these shows do look expensive, so they're throwing a lot of money at these things, and they're still having their conventions and everything. So it's the new era of Trek. It's a little different than the old era, but I enjoy it for what it is. But I think Strange New Worlds is going to find its voice, into the second season. Right now, it's doing a lot of fan service.
Yeah.
Um,
They seem to have this thing, like this overreaching story going with Pike knowing his own death and shit like that. So, yeah, hopefully they explore that a bit more and it becomes a bit more than just, a retread of Planet of the Week type stories.
Yeah, yeah, I think that and also the growth of Spock, because the one of the things that's interesting with Spock's characters, if in the cage, which was the pilot that didn't get through. It's funny, people said this is the longest green light for a pilot in the history of television, right? Because the cage was the failed pilot for Star Trek, with Pike and Spock and Number One and all those characters, and now they're back. And in that episode, Spock laughs like they're on that planet, and he starts smiling and stuff. And the Cannon Warriors, the gatekeepers of
Yeah.
Cannon, they kind of, but I think that's kind of a cool way to be like, okay, why did Spock show emotion in that episode, and then when the actual series came out with Kirk, he didn't have that. He was much more stoic. So they wrote it in as Spock is still in his development. He's trying to shed all the human side of him. So that part's cool. You know, Pike kind of, because this takes place after the cage. 5 years after, and it's before the accident, 5 years before Kirk. So that's the only reason, Pete. I like your idea, but I don't think they can do it because he was the captain right before Kirk took over. So unless there's an extra amount of time when he was not on the Enterprise, where he was doing administrative stuff before the accident, I don't know if they can do that because it just deviates too much from the original storyline. So I don't know. But anyway, that's our Star Trek Strange New Worlds feel. But it's cool. I always like to get Pete's perspective, folks out there, because we're like opposite sides. Like, when it comes to Star Wars, he's the gung ho guy, and I'm kind of like the peripheral one. And then sometimes I'll shit on stuff. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. And then for him, it's the opposite. Like, he likes Star Trek, like I like Star Wars, but he's not like the gung ho one like I am. So it's always cool to get like an outside perspective on the two franchises. And by the way, speaking of which, check out our Star Wars movie rankings. We did that a while ago. It's on the
Hmm.
channel. And check out our Star Trek movie ranking, which I was trying to edit it down. I didn't have time. So you get it. We're drunk. It's our first time doing. I think it's our first time using Streamyard. So like the first 5-10 minutes, you might
I
just want to
think
get.
Rambo came before that.
No, but Rambo, we were using OBS. We were doing the
Oh, okay.
recording. Yeah, because I was watching it just to say, should I leave this up? In the first 5 minutes, I'm staring into the camera like, how do I use it was pretty bad. But then after we get warmed up, skip to like the 12-minute mark. I think I might have even put a little time tag there. Then after we get all the cobwebs out, it's actually kind of fun. So check that out on the channel if you're a fan of Star Trek, and check that other the Star Wars ranking if you're a fan of Star Wars, and have some fun. But it's a good time to be both a Star Trek and Star Wars fan,
It
man.
is. There's so much
This
new
show's
content from
yeah,
both.
so much, and you're a little bit older than me, but not much. But I'm sure you remember quite well the drought. Like
Yeah, oh,
I.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for Star Trek, when I was 7, I think there was just the original series, and then the movie came out. Unfortunately, but not
Yeah.
unfortunately, because it led to several other good movies.
Yes.
But yeah, for Star Wars, for the longest time, there was just those 3 movies and a couple made-for-TV Ewok movies and the
Yes, and that was
holiday
it.
special.
That
Yeah,
was it. And for
yeah.
Trek, it was like 2004, 2005, I guess, when Enterprise got canceled, and then that was I had zero hopes that even with the success of the Kelvin movies, the J.J. Abrams one, I was like, there's no chance Star Trek is coming back to TV. It's just TV has changed too much. But they've managed to do it. It's back,
Yeah.
and I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. Anyway, guys, let's get to this Deep Space Nine. What you're here for? Um, it's tonight we're going to be reviewing 5 episodes again. Playing God, Profit and Loss, Blood Oath, and the Maquis, parts 1 and 2. And I've been telling Pete all along, I said to him, you've been digging season 2 a little bit more than I did. But for me, this is when it, like, this last little part of the season from Blood Oath on, it's like bang, 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 bang. Like, these are really, really, really great episodes. Can't say I feel that way about playing God, but we'll talk about it and see how Pete feels about it. It's a story by Jim Trombetta, teleplay by Jim Trombetta and Michael Piller. Premiered on February 28th, 1994, directed by David Livingston. And it's kind of again, I'm using Jammer reviews here, guys. So check out his page; it's really cool. So he says here it's an episode with a split personality. Uh,
Hmm.
so one, we got Dax is assigned the True Initiate named Arjun, played by Jeffrey Blake, whom she must help guide to the next step in the Trill symbiont joining candidacy by offering her experience as a joint Trill. And the other storyline is that there's a proto universe,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, which is like a minor story point. It's like the main thing is Jadzia mentoring this Trill. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's like a mini universe in the space station that could expand and kill everyone. But that's
yes,
just the minor storyline.
yes. It's like why, and it's very strange. And I mean, and then they even try to shoehorn in like the morality tale because they realize after a
They're
while that there's a
sentient.
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there could be sentient life in this universe. So should we destroy it? But at the same time, it's like if you let this thing expand, it's going to destroy all of the Alpha Quadrant. You
Yeah,
know.
and that's actually a moral debate. It's like, no, there's no fucking debate here. Get rid of the thing.
Yes, and in the end, it's been a while since I watched it. I was telling Pete before we went on. I'm already on season 4, so he's gonna help me try to remember some of this stuff. But uh, don't they send it to the Gamma
They
Quadrant?
jettison it. They jettison it from the through the wormhole.
So
They just
fuck the
they
Gamma
just
Quadrant.
blasted it. Well, no, because they're blasting it into deep space. So I mean, like the idea is hopefully it has enough space to expand and grow on its own. But
Well,
yeah,
hopefully.
you would think eventually it's going to become a problem.
Is that your scientific vocabulary there, Pete? Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, basically that's what they did. They got rid of it. They're like, we're not going to kill it, but we're going to send it somewhere else where it may or may not become a problem in the future.
Yes. That reminds me of a meme I just saw, an Obi-Wan meme where it's like, yo, Obi-Wan's having all these issues over in Tatooine and wherever the fuck, and Yoda's just chilling. And then somebody wrote in the comments, my problem, this is not.
That was me. That was me.
Oh, yes, that was funny. My problem, this is not. So it's like, this is
That's
not our
that's
problem.
warned him he did.
Yes. So
Stay
the
in, you must.
so anyway, there's a few cute things in this episode. Like the voles thing was kind of weird. Yeah, there's the voles. We forgot to mention the voles, which are like these rats that the space.
Yeah, yeah, the Cardassian rats.
They're loose on the ship. There's space seaweed stuck on the nacelle. Oh, we do get the Klingon opera guy comes back. That's classic.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's always good. And he recurring character there. The Vols released the space ball. What the hell is, I don't even know what this episode has so much stuff going on. I write some notes sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck am I thinking? But apparently the Vols play some part in this episode.
No, that's how they find the micro universe, I think.
Oh, the Vols release it. They released the space ball. Okay. Um, so yes, Cisco decides he can't justify destroying the universe to save his own. So an alternate plan, putting Arjun's flight skills, that's how it connects. There you go. And plenty of technobabble to use is concocted. So the idea of an entire miniature universe with its own civilizations isn't bad in itself and by itself, but it doesn't really answer the question, like, where you're just going to leave it out there, are you going to let it expand and wipe out the gamma quadrant,
Yeah,
just so Cisco can have the arrogance to make a decision about the universe in a mere hour? So I don't know what they were thinking with this one. This
yeah,
is
yeah. And it reminded me, like, one of my favorite Discovery episodes is the one where the computer gains sentience, and it correlates with the negotiations between like this mystery alien being that what's her face is trying to talk to, and it was brilliant because both stories were like so parallel, like they worked and they connected together, and
yes.
this felt like, okay, we got two completely different stories going on here that have no connection to each other, and we're just gonna kind of crazy glue it together at the end.
I know that's the problem with because that's a classic Trek formula, the A plot and the B plot, and sometimes they make it work where the B plot seems to
Oh,
be
it often works. It often works.
yeah,
This was
and
not one of those cases.
exactly because the try to shoehorn it in because they're so opposite. Like that could have been the episode. Like we have a baby universe, in our backyard. Like we didn't
Well,
need
it's
the
like it was not even a big fucking deal. It's like,
yes.
what
It
do we
was the
do?
B
Should
plot.
we,
Like
should we
they
throw it
made
in the garbage?
no. It's like
It's
they
like how I
made.
deal with expired food, man.
That's what's crazy about this episode because they made an expanding universe that could wipe out the entire Alpha Quadrant, the B plot.
Yeah,
It's like how is that even close to a B plot? I mean, I like Dax and all, but I could give two shits about this kid she's teaching. But in the end, they shoehorned it in because he had to use his flight skills and his confidence to.
yeah,
Um, so whatever.
yeah.
Let's move on.
It was a nice try. Although before we move on, I
Yes.
do want to say that it a good thing about the Dax plot, which was kind of shoddy as well, is that we learn that Curzon actually turned her down,
Mm.
and that was her motivation. She got rejected. Actually,
Yes. Yes.
she got rejected because Curzon turned her down, and she had to go back and do it all over again. And now
Yeah.
that she has the Dax symbiont, she realizes that he was trying to teach her something. So
Yeah. This
that's
comes
a
back
good point
up.
for this episode.
Yeah. So that little plot point comes back up in an episode later on that you'll see, which isn't a great episode, but that moment where she's able to confront Curzon uh, about that specific thing is pretty interesting. So no spoilers, but you'll see that it does lead to something. So good. That's a good little plot point for Dax because she
Yeah.
is insecure about that. That's the one part of Dax's character that is very insecure. Anyway, now we move on to some Ferengi. It's a Ferengi episode. We
Yep.
got that premiered on March 21st, 1994, written by Flip Koppler and Cindy Marcus. Excuse me here. Directed by Robert Weimer. Three Cardassians seek refuge on DS9, and it turns out that one of them, a Cardassian woman named Natima, played by Mary Crosby, is an old lover
Mary
of
Crosby? Are you fucking shitting me? Oh my
Mary.
god! I knew I recognized her from somewhere. She
Okay.
shot Jr. Man.
Oh yeah. Okay. See, you're a Dallas fan. I'm not. Well, like, no, I'm not even gonna say I'm not a Dallas fan. I've never watched it that much. I want to. It's overwhelming, man. It's like too
It
much.
is, man. It's 14,
Like I
14
like watching
seasons.
the clips. I see the clips. I'm like I could probably get into this. It's so trashy, but I can't see myself actually committing to it. Um, but yeah, this is an interesting episode because it you got the political stuff that is going on in this episode, but in the end, it really comes down to this Quark Natima relationship. Okay,
Hmm.
and also it does give us a little bit more backdrop about Garrick, because one of the guys visits Garrick, who's been exiled, and we start to know that Garrick used to be a high level operative. Um, um, excuse me. You got to help me with this. I know I liked it, but I honestly can't remember much from it. uh,
Yeah. Well,
I know that
what I
Odo never
mostly took
decides to
from this is
go.
yes, yes, he does. But what I mostly took from this is like, oh my god, Cork is becoming such a softie. Like, man, I mean, I think he's actually just a lobe slave. Actually, like,
I
he just
agree, man.
loves. Yeah, he like when it comes to the chicks, man. Like Quark is totally fucking helpless, man. They walk all over him, and he comes off looking sympathetic by comparison.
Yeah, he is easily manipulated if you just flatter him. If you're a woman, of course. If you flatter him, okay, some latinum will help, but you start touching his lobes,
Yeah,
I think that's so funny that they have this whole lobe thing on DS9. It's so adult.
yes,
It's
exactly.
so adult dirty, you know.
Yeah,
But anyway, check this out, guys. Lang um, is the we found out that Lang and Quark were once lovers. Okay, she's on the ship with Raquel and Hogue. They're political descendants that are trying to reform the oppressive Cardassian military government. Now I remember. It's coming back to me now.
yeah,
And the Cardassian warship arrives and threatens the station, and they want these guys back. There you go. So now we
yeah.
got the little bit of politics there. And Garrick explains to the S9 senior staff that the Cardassian Central Command wants Hogue and Raquel, who he describes as terrorists. Quark offers Hogan Recurrent a contraband cloaking device to help them escape on the condition that Lang stay with him. Lang has an argument with Quark where she accidentally shoots him, stunning him, but then she
Yeah,
admits
it's the
loves
second
him.
time Quark's been shot in this season, too.
Yes, no. And Quark manages to convince her to stay. Lang and her students are arrested by Odo, and the Bajoran government agrees to turn them over in exchange for some Bajoran prisoners. Uh, but Quark convinces Odo to release Lang and her students. Okay, Garrick greets them on their ship, where he laments that he must now kill Quark as well. Torrin appears, revealing he only used Garrick to learn Hogan Recallan's whereabouts. The offer of a return to Cardassia was a lie. Garrick shoots him and allows Lang, Hogue, and Recallan to escape. Lang convinces Quark to let her leave, promising to return. Anyway, a couple things I did like in this episode now that I remembered it here, and I was reading straight from Wikipedia, guys. Hey, it's live podcasting. Is that we got a little bit more to see a little bit more about Garrick's character because he's the great mystery
Oh,
of this.
he totally exposes himself in this.
Yes, yes. The fact that he shoots the guy, although I don't. This is similar to that episode where Odo helps that guy escape, and then there's like no repercussion. He just comes back on the ship.
That was O'Brien. That was O'Brien.
No, there was O'Brien that let the one thing got that the Tor or whatever escape.
Yeah.
But later, remember Odo, like the guy had shot the one's alien's brother, and then he was after him because he was telling Odo that some planet that had some
Oh,
shapeshifters.
yeah. Off the station. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that whenever stuff like that happens, for me, for a show that's so well written, 90% of the time, to let stuff like that kind of like hang in the air, like wouldn't he be in like big trouble? Even Quark himself, remember when he let in those? What did
Oh
he
yeah,
let?
no. I mean, Quark should be like serving 200 years in prison.
Yeah,
Actually,
he
for
let
all
like
this shit.
terrorists on the ship and everything, So this is another episode like that because Garrick shoots phasers. Even though they shoot phasers on the ship, I mentioned this before. The DS9 has this tendency of
Because
like
they
the
have phaser
security.
detectors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these are. It only goes off when the plot needs it to go off. Otherwise, it's like okay, we're
yeah.
just gonna shoot people because it's two times. You know, Quark gets shot in this episode, and Garrick shoots a guy in this episode, and then like nothing happens. One, it to them, and two, he just got in the way of like a political deal between two major powers, Bajor and Cardassia, prisoner exchange. So, like, what's the repercussion? So sometimes when that happens, it kind of, takes the episode down a few notches for me. But, when Garrick's doing his thing, that's, always a good, a good
Yeah,
moment.
no. Well, I actually just watched a major Garrick centered episode tonight, and
Yes.
I think this episode did a lot in terms of advancing his character. Like, is he a spy? Is he an innocent tailor? And the truth is like somewhere in the middle. Like he's pretty complex, and it's amazing that they let it stew for this long. Because I think he's only in one or two episodes in the first season, and then like they start developing a bit more in this season, and this is a good one for him for sure.
Um, I remember when I first watched Deep Space Nine, his character made such an impact on me, such a great character. And then I went back, and he's only in 37 episodes out of
Yeah,
170. And
yeah,
his presence,
not many.
that's not many at all. Andrew Robinson here, but his presence is so like you just feel it when he's on. It just changes everything about the show. He's such a great actor, such a great character. And from what I heard, is he was only supposed to be a one-off. He was gonna just make one appearance, maybe two, but he was so good that they just kept bringing them back and bringing them back and bringing them back, and not just as like the funny side character, like
Oh,
or
he became a very serious character, actually.
yeah, and also not just a B plot character, like a
Yes,
major
exactly.
player, you know, carried the storyline forward type of character. So it's really cool what they do with Garrick over the course of the series. But right from the gate, you fall in love with this guy, and of course Quark. I mean, Quark by the end of Deep Space Nine was one of my favorite characters too. I never thought I'd
I
live for it.
know, and he's such a fucking softie
He
too. Like
is a
he's so
softie. I'm
kind
telling you, he's a softie. It's not all about
of.
Latin. He's a softie. He just doesn't want to admit that it isn't all about Latinum, but it isn't with this guy.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, he has a great line in this. So all I have to do to get you back is wait until Cardassia becomes a free and democratic society, and that's like right as she's about to leave him. Like he's a cynic, but he's got a heart. Like he's like, okay, like I want you back, but the circumstances that would require that are literally impossible right now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, all right, now we're getting, for me at least, and
Before we move on, I want to point out the similarities between this and Casablanca.
okay.
Yeah, the original title for this was "Here's Looking at You." Apparently,
Oh, I didn't know
I had to
this.
look that up because I did my research, and yeah, it was written as a tribute to Casablanca. Like Quark is Rick, if you can believe that. Quark is Humphrey Bogart, and Mary Crosby is the old flame, and her students are the husband. And he has to decide, is he going to sacrifice his reputation in his community to help, like, the love of his life, basically. So that's a cool aspect. And
That's a cool
just
aspect. I
one.
didn't even pick up on that. But then again, I saw Casablanca when I was like 14, so
Okay, I watch it every year, so yeah,
it's
it
been
was
a
pretty obvious to me. And also, Mary Crosby, who plays Quark's lover, besides being the girl who shot Jr., she is also the daughter of Bing Crosby.
okay. Because I saw Crosby, I thought she was connected to what's Tasha Yar. She's a Crosby too, but she's connected to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. That Crosby, Denise Crosby.
David Crosby. David Crosby.
Yes, Denise Crosby is the other famous Crosby in parents. Dennis Crosby and Marilyn Miller Scott are Denise
Okay.
Crosby's parents. Yes, but her siblings are Kelly Lee, Gregory, and Dennis Crosby. Okay, so not no relation there. She
No
played Tasha.
relation to Bing. Singing in the
I
rain.
had no clue. I had no clue that there was that connection. Oh, speaking of connections, though, I was in one of the Trek groups today, and I didn't know this, Pete. Let me just get my gallery here because I had to take a screenshot of it because I knew I would forget. It's the fact that they were talking about a later episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and they said when I rewatched it, I got a feeling of MASH because I also made the comparison between Klinger and O'Brien having the same wife, and somebody was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And Rosalind
Yeah,
Chow, aka Keiko, plays Soon Lee in the last two episodes of MASH. She marries Klinger in the finale, and she's in After MASH as his wife. So I had no idea. There's the connection.
wow.
Yes,
Wow.
because
That's
there's
a
a
shock.
really the episode that they're talking about is like way into the I think the fifth season where they're in the war zone. And that, if I'm not mistaken, I'll know when I get there, is the episode where I finally got Bashir. Because he's in the middle of the war zone, having to be a field doctor, and all that bullshit, like I'm the genius doctor stuff, just wipes away. Because now it's the real shit.
Right.
Now you can't save lives. And it just
Right.
gives him a third dimension that I mean, he gets more likable through season 2 and 3, but when that happens, by the end of Deep Space Nine, he was like one of my favorite of the Doctors, just in Star
Oh,
Trek, of all the Star Trek, because he's humbled. He's definitely humbled, and then something else we find out about him humbles him a lot too, which has to do with why he answered that question wrong on his exam and came in second place. But no spoilers if you haven't seen it. We'll get there in the later seasons. So yeah, I had no clue about that with Keiko. But anyway, speaking of heavy hitting, at least for me, this is one of my favorites. Blood Oath. Okay, written by Winrick Kobe. Written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Winrick Kobe, and it premiered on March 28th, 1994. And back when Dax was Curzon, Dax, he became friends with some Klingons while serving his diplomatic duty. Later, these Klingons fell into discord with a shady character known as the Albino, and he swore vengeance on the firstborn of each of these Klingons. And he kept his promise, killing the infants with a deadly virus. And among the murdered was Curzon's godson. So,
mhm.
along with the three Klingons, Curzon took a blood oath to avenge the deaths of the children. So now they're reunited on DS9. The three Klingons, which are all the way back from classic Trek. We got Kor, played by John Colicos. We got Kang, played by Michael Ansara. And we got Koloth, played by William Campbell. Find Jadzia, who must now struggle with the moral dilemma of keeping her oath in
They
helping
don't really
kill
find her though. They kind of accidentally stumble into
run
her.
into her. Yes, they weren't. Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think of Blood Oath?
Not as big a fan as you are, man. Honestly, like there seems to be two angles that you could have approached this story from. One, like how much is Jadzia obligated to live up to Curzon's blood oath? But that gets taken care of pretty early. Like the Klingons say, no, you don't need to do it. And actually, we don't want you anyway. So that
Mm,
angle gets killed immediately. And the other is like, okay, Jadzia, despite having, seven lifetimes of experience in her, some of them with some hard ass motherfuckers, she
yeah,
herself is not actually experienced at this hardcore Klingon blood and gut stuff. So, what is it going to do to her? And at the end of the day, it turns out to be nothing. So, I didn't really feel that this developed either of the potential themes that the story presented.
yeah. See, I like it on a couple levels. The story itself is pretty basic, like you said. They have to go there. It turns into one of these Mission Impossible type deals where they have to, or maybe like those old style kung fu movies where they got to break into the temple, beat up a bunch of
Yeah.
the goons, and then eventually um, kill the albino. Which, by the way, people have used as reference for why were there albino Klingons in Star Trek Discovery. Well, you got the albino Klingon here in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but I like it based on one to see these classic TOS characters back.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's the thing I'm missing because I don't remember like older Star Trek that well. Like, so I mean, if that's like a nostalgia thing, like oh these Klingons, I remember these guys. Like that could probably contribute a lot more to your enjoyment. But
yeah,
I,
look, watch. Let me put them on the screen here. Maybe you'll recognize. I'm sure you'll recognize at least one of their faces from some memes or something. But there they go. There's them back then versus them now. So that's them in the original uh, series. And my
oh,
favorite
okay,
is the one in the middle there. One of the best
yeah,
Trek episodes. But yeah, so there's that aspect of it. Which, by the way, I think it's maybe people were writing letters back then, but imagine if this came out now and they'd be like, "Why do they have ridges? What Oh God, people complain about
yeah.
every little thing because they didn't have forehead ridges back then. But also, Dax. I know Dax has a lot of fans. I'm yeah, I'm not really one of them. Like I like her character, but I'm not in love with the Dax character. Um, for me, if she was there or not there, like there's not, at least for me, she doesn't add any extra element to the show that I find like crucial. She's funny. She's witty every once in a while, but she doesn't add anything like I feel like Quark does, Odo does, Kira. They're impactful characters. So much so that when she leaves the show due to some disputes with the creator, and they kill her off. I'm like, okay, but uh, I like, yeah, and mainly it's because of the episodes that we get, like this last episode that we talked about, or the one prior to that, where she's teaching the trill and this whole thing with Curzon, and how she failed the exam. It's like I don't, I don't care about it that much. But one thing that I do think is interesting about the whole Dax idea, the Trill idea, is how she had these multiple lives before. In two of my favorite episodes with Dax, well, this is one, and the other one is where she meets an ex-lover. And Pete said The
Right.
Wire, a very gay episode. Wait till that episode. Um, Yes, you know. So stuff like that I find a little bit more interesting because we're talking about multiple lives in one person, and especially trans people. We talked about this a lot. A lot of trans people identify with the trill, the species, and especially Dax, because you're in this spot of like, who is she really? Is she a man that is now a woman that used to be a woman before then? Uh, I like that aspect, and when they do episodes that don't give us the psychobabble, the techno babble, like we're gonna steal the trill out of her and put it in somebody else. That stuff for me is like whatever. But an episode like this, which is about the emotional impact and the friendship impact of who Dax is, in other people accepting that now she looks like a woman. Like people use this meme a lot, to support trans people and say, look, if Core can be this, it's this easy for him. He says, Curzon, my beloved old friend. And she's like, I'm Jadzia now. And he just accepts it. Jadzia, my beloved old friend. You know, it's the ability to look beyond just the physical and know, okay, the person that I knew is still there. They just have a different body. I think that's a very beautiful little moment.
That's the thing, though. She has a different body.
She has a different body, you know.
Yes. Yeah. It
Well,
it's
okay, you're
it's
missing
not
a penis if you're turned into a woman now. You're not gonna have a different body, but your body does change. If you have gender reassignment surgery.
well. That's a different thing entirely.
I don't think
It
it is.
No,
I think
no, I think it is because I mean, like, if you look at someone like your favorite person on the planet, I believe he calls himself Elliot now.
Ellie.
I mean,
Oh, I can't
yeah,
stand. Oh,
yeah,
Ellen
exactly.
Page. Elliot. Elliot.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, actually, like, I dug her back in the day. Not really as a person, but at least as an actress. I guess he's an actor
Yes.
now. But regardless, like just waking up one day and deciding I'm a man. I mean, like identity comes as much from outside as it does internally, right?
Hmm.
Right? Like I'm sure Donald Trump thinks he's a genius. So if he thinks he's a genius, are we obligated to respect his identity?
Oh yeah, but see, that's where we go into personality identities versus essential identities. I think that gender identity goes beyond, am I a smart guy? Am I a dumb guy? Am I arrogant? Am I polite to people? Like that's behavioral identity versus what do I feel like when I wake up in the morning, which is something I cannot explain. The only way that I can sort of uh, come to terms with, I mean, not come to terms sounds like pretty bad. Like it, this is some negative thing in my life. No, it's just
Right, right.
that I can kind of sort of understand what these people go through is me being gay. Because it's like,
Right.
I didn't wake up one day and make a decision, and somebody that's not gay will never understand that. It's impossible. Just like I can't understand what it means to be 100% straight and be like, okay, you didn't make this decision to be like, oh, I want to fuck pussy for the rest of my life. And that's what turns me on, or on an
Right.
emotional level, that's what connects. It just is. And I can be an asshole. I can be a nice guy. You can be an asshole. You can be a nice guy. We can all share like these personality traits, which can become part of our identity, but it's not like the essential. Like, I don't have to work to be gay. It's just like, okay, I wake up in the morning, I go to work, and I see a nice butt, on the train. I'm like, good Lord, that's a nice ass. And it just happens to be a dude's ass, you know? So
Right.
in the same way that I can't explain that, and a straight person can never understand my way, and I don't think I could ever understand straight person way. I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt for people with gender identity that
And
is just.
how many though? How
Oh,
many?
I don't know, dude. I mean, everything's a spectrum. I mean, there's dudes that do wake up one day and say, "Hey, I want to know what it feels like inside a butthole, or I want to feel something inside." And it's like, okay, they experiment. They may think they're gay for a while, and then they're like, you know what, this is really not for me. It's spectrums.
Right.
So, is there people that maybe are just going through a phase and think, well, I really think I would be better as a woman, but then they realize later, maybe this is not for me. Yeah, I just hope they didn't cut their dick off before.
Exactly.
But even then, Pete, I mean, it's not an easy. I mean, we're joking about it a little bit, but it's not an easy process. Like, if they are going to go that extra step, they got to be living that life. They have psychological. They're followed by psychologists. There's a whole thing that it's not like I woke up tomorrow, I feel like a woman, let me go cut my dick off. It's like you got to be feeling like that and living like that, living as a woman for at least 3-4 years. There's a whole process that goes through gender reassignment surgery. I guess it's what it's called.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because it's
John
not a light
Hopkins
thing
is one
to
of the
get your
major
tits cut
purveyors of
off,
it.
get your breast cut off or get your penis cut off. It's not something to be taken lightly.
Yeah,
And
but well, no, it never used to be. Nowadays, people just say, "Well, gosh, I'm going to be a woman today," and and the thing that goes with it is the concept of gender fluidity, which means you can feel like a woman from Tuesday to Thursday, and on the weekends you're a dude again.
you know what? But I think that's interesting though, because I don't think it's a new thing. I think it's always been there. It's just
Oh, I don't
people.
think it's a new thing either. I just think it's been flagulated an awful lot over the last.
Yeah, that I agree with. That it's almost like now.
I lived in Thailand for a year, dude. You don't think I
Yes,
know about gender identity? Like
yes. Oh no,
seriously,
I mean,
I know all about that shit.
I can believe it. It's just it's almost like we our friend Craig was posting some funny stuff about all these companies now that want to get that, they call it the rainbow money, the rainbow capitalism.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
all,
monetizing being gay. Like people
yes,
finally realize
monetizing being gay.
that gay
Court.
people have money because they're not married, they don't have kids. Like these people got fucking money to spend, man. Like why not suck up to them?
Yeah, but so then when you get into where gays were 30 years ago versus where they are now, and it's sort of kind of normalized, but in the beginning it was kind of the same talk. It's like they're trying to turn the kids gay, they're trying to do this, they're pushing it on us, they pushed it. I mean, there's still a little bit of that going on. Apparently having a gay doctor and a gay engineer on Star Trek Discovery is pushing an agenda. It's like, no, that's reality. There are gay doctors, there are
Yeah,
gay
exactly.
engineers, they're in relationships. But I think the trans thing now, it's like it's the next step. It's like that those people in society that have been the most marginalized in their, and to get to a point where they feel like they can be part of society, there's going to be the extremists, of course, and they're idiots and they make everybody else look bad. There's going to be the regular people that are like, look, this is what I am. This is what I feel. I just want to get a job. Uh, and it's a bunch of mixed messages, but I'm not willing to discount completely what somebody may be feeling about themselves, and even if it's fluid, because gayness is that same way, man. I mean, there's it's just that dudes won't talk about it because it's taboo still. But there are plenty of dudes that are married, they got kids, they like pussy, like they love it, they'll eat that shit out. But
Yeah,
hey, every once in a while, they just really want the company of another man. And actually, they have clubs down here in Sao Paulo that are called Goy clubs, Goy.
I've heard of that. Yeah, well,
Yes, and
actually, I
it's
think you told me that.
yeah, I probably did because I thought it was ridiculous. But now I'm like, why am I judging this? It just is what it is. It's the spectrum. So there's dudes, and they sometimes go with their wives, and they don't enjoy penetration, but they enjoy, fondling and just being in the company of a man for those 2 days, and then it's back to quote unquote. Does that mean that he stopped being gay or he stopped being hetero for 2 days? No, it's fluid. I think there's a lot of fluidity when you get to sexuality and gender, and it's just that we get yes, we get these whack jobs that are pushing it like it has to be this, and you have to respect, like I don't gotta respect shit, you know
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I'll
Yeah,
respect you
and
just
it's getting
because.
pushed in academia as well. Like
Yes,
you have
yes.
to understand that women
No,
can have penises.
no.
No, no, they don't. They
Yeah,
don't.
no, that
That's
part I
that's
agree
a
is bullshit.
biological fact.
Yes, no, that part I agree is bullshit, and it sucks because it ruins. It kind of, it makes it more difficult for folks that are just they're living their lives and they just happen to feel this way, and it is what the fuck it is. When Jenner became a woman, dude, you think he woke up at 60 and decided this? I mean, he's probably felt this way his whole life, but finally he feels like he's in a safe enough
Yeah,
space
and
where he
that's
can
this is a
become a
really
she.
annoying thing because he is actually a really good advocate for trans people, and they
He
fucking
is,
hate him.
because he's a conservative. He's a Trumpster.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
So it's all politics. It's bullshit. That's the part that I don't like. It's all down political lines. But all that being said, to tie this back to Jadzia,
Yeah,
trans people in general
we've
do.
got a little
No,
sidetracked.
it's fine. It's fine. But trans people do ID with the trill, and the writers of the show have said that that was their way of talking about either gay issues or trans issues, gender issues through these aliens, which have this transformation. And yet they're still technically the same person. I mean, they're various people.
Yeah,
There's a sci-fi angle to it, but in a way, it is. It's like, look, Pete sees me today. I'm a dude, physically, but then a year later, it's like I got breasts, and he's like, "Oh shit!" But it's still me. I'm still like, as far as what I like, I'm still gonna like my Star Trek. I'm still gonna drink my beer. I'm still gonna, you know, talk about the same bullshit I always talk about. I just look different. Maybe I'll talk with a softer voice or something, but I'm still me. So I like that. That Core just looked at her, and Cisco does the same, and
yeah.
she's like,
Not all the Klingons accepted her that quickly,
they
though.
did it. I agree. And she had to prove it. But that
By
moment,
fighting them, fighting them in the hologram.
yeah, but that moment still stands. And it's still like this really nice moment of, and that's the part of the Jadzia character that I like. When they have stories about her and what does it mean to be a trill, not in the medical sense, but in the personality sense of like,
Yeah,
I have been all these people before. I have all these memories of these other people before. Actually, there's an episode coming up where they discover, without giving away too much, that maybe they didn't register one of her former hosts for some reason, which is actually kind of an interesting episode. So this whole idea of who are you really, when you have all these other people that have been in you,
yeah,
uh, uh, and but do we treat you as you, Jadzia? But are you also Curzon? Cisco calls her old man,
yeah.
but he also sees her as Jadzia. So I think that becomes a parallel that a lot of trans people I deal with, as far as it's hard. Imagine, I mean, it would be difficult for me. I think if
Oh yeah,
I knew
well, when I was
somebody as
in
a man and then now they physically look like a woman, it would be like a shock to the system. I wouldn't. I would still be friends with them. I would still treat them the same. But for a minute, I'd be like, wait a second, what is this? You know?
no, when I was in second grade, my neighbor had a sex change operation actually, and he was living with his boyfriend. They were our next door neighbors,
Yes.
and yeah, they made a point of going door to door and saying, "Look, like this is what's going on with this dude. Like, don't look at him funny or anything. Like, this is what's happening." So, I mean, it's something I've been very aware of for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just I'm not sure how much responsibility the rest of us are supposed to take for other people's internal issues. Like I can respect it and not judge it. I just don't feel obligated to participate in it.
Oh, but you don't have to participate in it. You don't got to cut off any your dicks. You know. Uh, I think it's just minimal respect. I think the majority of trans people, and there aren't that many trans people on planet Earth. You know.
No, it's one
But
percent of the population.
how much?
1%.
Yeah, it's 1%. That's like nothing. It's like a drop in the bucket. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the majority of them, if you take out the ones that are like, it's she, you must call me ma'am, you know, taking those aside, uh, most of them, man, they just want to live a life, be accepted, be able to get a job, be able to feed their family, be able to start a family, and not be relegated to what trans people usually are relegated to, which is sex work, margins of society. They're not part of society. Even within the gay community, I remember, when I was coming out or coming to terms with myself, and I would be in a lot of gay lesbian organizations. They added the T later. Now they added like a million letters, but before it was
Yeah.
just GLB, GLS, sorry, gay, lesbian, and sympathizers, and then it turned into gay, lesbian, bisexual, and then GLBT became like the hard one for the longest time, and now it's got way more. But even within the gay community, there's some prejudice against trans people because trans people make gay people look bad. Because when people think of
Yeah, well,
people,
it's not only that, but if you're a gay dude and you want to fuck someone who looks like a dude, and it turns out to be a woman, like, oh my god, what a disappointment, right?
what a disappointment! Actually, I was getting hit on by a trans man couple maybe last month, and I had to ask my friend Stephanie about it because I just had never been.
She would,
But I was curious. I was curious. I was like, you know what? Let me hit that and see how it is. Maybe attractive. I was sure it was a dude until she was like, no, I'm a trans man. I was like, oh. But I think most trans people out there, and look at some of these women that you think are women. I don't know. I mean, I can't really tell.
again, I lived in Thailand for a year, man. You can be easily fooled.
Yes. So most of them just want to live their fucking life, we get the political angle with a lot of them, but well, not a lot of them, like whatever that, like I was talking about Star Trek, the vocal minority, they voice, their voices are loud,
Yes.
but most are just like, whatever. They can take a joke. They can, like with the Dave Chappelle thing, most trans women were just like, whatever. It was funny, like we
Yeah.
get it. He's just,
Yeah, I know.
um, and what do you call it? So it's the next group of people that really just want a voice in society, and I think sometimes just if you just go back to 1970, 1980s, and even when I was growing up, Matthew Shepard happened when I was in high school when he got killed. It was still not a safe time for young people to come out and just say, yes, I am. Uh, and it was still the narrative of like, they're trying to push this on us and they're going to change us and it's the agenda. And it's like, no, dude, we just want to be able to like teach. Like, I'm a teacher. I teach kids. Like, I just want to teach. Like I don't want to be. Oh, he's gay. He can't be teaching kids. No, I want to teach. I want to go to a movie. I want to run. I want to ride my bike. I want to go to the gym and get changed. And I'll have people like, oh God, there's a gay person in the locker room with. It's like
Mhm.
no. It's like we just want to have a regular life like everybody else. And I think that's what trans people are fighting for at the moment. Most of them, but we get the idiots in there that cloud out, they drown out those voices. So,
Mhm.
um, but getting back again, let's try to finish this
Yeah,
episode.
holy
We
fuck,
still
man.
got
We
to talk
went
about
off
the
on a
Maquis.
tangent.
The Maquis. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
We got one viewer out there. Hello, viewer. Say hi. You get to hear our rant here. Hi, viewer. I don't know who you are, but say hello. And thank you for those that have been listening. And we got a couple new subscribers since we came on, more than just a couple. So that always makes me happy because it's a labor of love. But that aspect of the show I love. I love the interaction of the three Klingons from way back when. Get them back on Star Trek, and having this final hurrah. And there's still another core, I believe, comes back for a real final hurrah. But you get these characters that like they get to die with honor, which is the Klingon way.
Yeah, they all died. They all died.
No, no, one of them survived. One of them survived, and
Oh,
he
okay.
comes back in a later episode. I believe it was Core that survived, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
I loved
but
how they bitched about the restaurant. That was actually one of my favorite things about this episode. It's like, oh my god, now like we used to drink the blood of our enemies, and now they run restaurants where they serve the people we used to kill. It's like, oh dude, I love that guy. I love the Klingon opera guy. Like they're
I
kind of shit on
know
him.
you can't talk bad about the Klingon opera guy, man. He's awesome. But the one second here. Let me just check something out here real quick because I'm terrible with names. But if I am not mistaken, it is Core that survives. Okay, the Albino has booby trapped the main gate to kill Kang. Okay, even before the fight started. The Khalith is killed and Kang is mortally wounded. Okay, Jadzia disarm. Oh, and I love the end where Jadzia does disarm the albino, but
She
Kang
won't
is the
kill
one
him.
that kills him, so she allows him to have the kill before
She
dying.
doesn't. She doesn't allow him though. She hesitates.
She
She
hesitates, but it's
hesitates.
nice that he gets the kill. But then
Yeah.
Kor and Jadzia leave the compound as Kor sings a song for his fallen comrades. So Kor is the surviving Klingon. Well, look at this. Kor was based on William Shakespeare's Falstaff. So up here on the wiki page, full of stuff here. Uh, but and it also, I like that this episode is more of like Cisco having to bend the rules, because at the beginning of the episode there was this whole thing of like, should I let her go, should I not let her go,
Yeah,
and
she talks to Kira first. That was a really harsh scene. She's like, "How many people did you kill?" And Kira's like, "What the fuck, bitch?
yes, yes.
Like,
So
don't ask me
that
shit like that. That's personal."
that's very personal, and again, it just builds more on. That's the for me the interesting aspect of the Dax characters. Like, what does it mean to have all these other people in you, you know, and what do they represent as far as who you are now, based on what body you occupied, just one lifetime ago. So it's all good for me. And I'm a sucker for. I know that there's folks out there, especially with the TNG episodes that were in the Klingon homeworld. People really don't like Klingon episodes, which is weird to say because they're like the number one, like the most recognizable villain. But there's a
Yeah,
group of people that really don't like Klingon episodes. I'm the opposite. When I see a Klingon, I'm like, I'm there for it. Which is why I was a little disappointed with the Discovery Klingons. They weren't the best. But I just think as not archetypal, as what's the word here I'm looking for? It's like it's kind of
Archetype.
surface level, you know, the whole Klingon, you know, these are the warriors, which Star Trek does. We get it, you know, these are the capitalists, these are the weird logical monks, and these are the warriors, and they don't expand. And the Cardassians are the corrupt politic race, and we get this sense that everybody is like that. I think DS9 is great because it's able to show that no, there are Cardassians who are not like that, and there's Cardassians that want
Hmm.
to do this and Cardassians that want to do that. It
Yes.
manages to do that a little bit with the Klingons too, and show, you know, like the cook, that's a Klingon.
Yeah.
Um,
You're a
uh,
rock or mock.
but in either case, even if we just have that surface level Klingon, which is just the, you know, the warrior race, I just think it's such a cool culture. I think it's such a cool universe that they built of like this Klingon culture, that this episode digs into that, you know, and it digs into how important this is for them and what this means for them, and this oath that can't be broken, and how it, oh my god, how it would be like the most disrespectful thing ever to break this oath. Um, Stuff like that, you know, honor, respect. I like themes like that. That's like The Godfather, you know. I
Mhm.
like mafia
Yeah,
stuff because of
exactly.
that. It's like it's these old school themes that they're dumb. They're like stupid. It's like, man, you're like, why are you even getting caught up over this dumb shit? But you do, you know, and you feel for it. You feel for Tony Soprano. And like you're like, he's about to do the dumbest possible thing, but I understand why he's gonna do it. And I'm hoping, and not only that, I hope he succeeds. Because that guy deserves it, you know? But so Klingon episodes all get me on that level. It's a very visceral level. And I thought this was a great one. This is a really great Klingon episode. With three of the best Klingons. So, guys, we spent a lot of time on this. So, we're going to
We
move on.
did.
I'm going to listen to the playback of this. Um, the Maquis. Whew.
Mm.
We just got
Hot
out of
damn.
we just got out of the Klingons to head right into some Maquis territory. And I'll give you the quick rundown of that in a second. The specs here. It's a story by Rick Berman and Michael Piller. Oh, you know, the creators of the show. And Jerry Taylor and James Crocker. Teleplay by James Crocker, directed by David Livingston. And the terrorist bombing of a Cardassian supply ship brings to Cisco and Ducat's attention armed skirmishes between the Federation and Cardassian colonies that reside, respectively, on the other side's area of the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, due to a recently signed treaty put into effect in TNG's Journey's End. So we get a little crossover of stuff happening. The Federation colonists live in constant fear of Cardassian oppression and at times blatant assault. As a result, they've taken up arms and formed a terrorist organization called the Maquis, which has led the Cardassian colonists to return hostilities. And the terrorism brings one of Cisco's good friends to DS9 to help defuse the situation, Kyle Hudson, played by Bernie Casey, a Starfleet commander in charge of overseeing the Federation colonies. And this is politics heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Politics heavy.
Heavy, heavy,
Yes.
heavy. These were
Um,
great episodes, though.
they're really good, really well, great. Like you said, they're really great episodes, and it starts our Maquis storyline, which extends all the way to Star Trek Voyager. You know, the whole premise of Star Trek Voyager is that they're chasing the Maquis into the Badlands, and in there is how the Voyager ship and the Maquis ship whoop, get flung over to the Delta Quadrant. In this case, they're 70,000 light years from home in the Delta Quadrant, and then the two crews have to work together. But the Maquis, you get them here. This is where
Yeah.
they really get developed. And in the beginning, you can almost sympathize with the Maquis a little bit.
I
Uh,
actually sympathize with the Cardassians more.
Ooh, tell me about it.
Well, the show begins with their ship getting blown up in a terrorist attack, and it seems like they're really innocent. We find out later that they really weren't that innocent, but at the same time, like, oh my god, you just blew up, like, what is it, 73 people?
I don't know how many people it was.
I think it was a lot. It was less than 100, but it was well over 50.
Yeah, but in either case, it's definitely terrorists.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, at the beginning, like, the Maquis seemed like, ooh, like, you guys are fucking rotten. And then, of course, over the course of the episode, as we will discuss, they turn out to be a little more sympathetic. They have been victimized a bit, a lot actually, but they seem to take a pretty extreme measure at the beginning.
Yes, and that's the problem with the Maquis. And, well, not the well, I say a problem, but in a good way, because that's what makes the Maquis interesting. Is that we can see both sides, like we've said many times here on this podcast. What one of the great feats of Deep Space Nine is that there's no bad guys in a way. Like they're able to write it so well that
Yeah,
although
even the Cardassians aren't bad guys, really,
yes, like
and they are
technically
fucking evil. But I mean,
yes,
you can
exactly.
see where they're coming from.
You can see where they're coming from. I think probably the closest to like we are really the bad guys is the Dominion.
Hmm.
But even they, start attacking the Alpha Quadrant because they fear the insurgents of the Alpha Quadrant into the Gamma Quadrant. They were there
Right.
doing their thing, but they're doing terrible things over there. So they're probably the closest to black and white bad guys in the series. But even they're written in a way where you're like, okay, but I get where they're coming from. And the Maquis is like that. It's just that slowly but surely we start to see that, hey, they are, one, they're warned that they got to get out of there. Okay, and we get it. Okay, shit, but this is where we live. We got to get up. Can't just because we have this new treaty now, and you know, do the Cardassians need to come to this planet? They got a bunch of other planets. They could have. They're living their life okay over there. Why do we need to be uprooted from our homes on this side of the DMZ?
Yeah.
But the way what the sympathy starts to wane a little bit, even for Cisco,
Yeah,
because it is the fact
because it's
that
his bestie. His bestie is like supervising the colonies.
yeah. But in the beginning, there's two great quotes here. One of them, I'm gonna read both of them because they're really good. But I'll start with this first one where Cisco's really upset by this, but then Kira's getting into his head, because Kira's been on the other side of this. And like,
She flips out big time. She
yes,
has this huge epic speech like, these people didn't choose to live, or these people chose to live with the Cardassians, but I didn't. I did for 26 years, something like that. But man, she goes off.
yes. And then of course, the bureaucrats over in Starfleet are telling Cisco, "Oh, we should establish a dialogue with the Maquis." And then when he gets off the line, Cisco says, "On Earth, there's no poverty, no crime, no war."
Yes,
And you look out the
yes.
window of Starfleet headquarters and you see paradise. Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise, and if that's not the theme of this motherfucking series, that's
That
it. You're
that
lying.
that was like that was like the king of Avery Brooks
Yes,
moments, man. He just like
yes,
he's like in a trance almost. He's like, yeah, they
yes.
don't fucking
But
see any of this shit,
yes,
motherfucker. I'm gonna be space Jesus and solve this myself.
yes. But so he continues and says, but the Maquis do not live in paradise. Out there in the demilitarized zone, all the problems haven't been solved yet. Out there
Hmm.
are no saints, just people, angry, scared, determined people who are going to do whatever it takes to survive, whether it meets with Federation approval or not. And
That was
that's
an
where you
amazing
see,
scene.
yeah, that no, that's a great scene, and where you get to kind of understand the Maquis side of things. It's just that they end up like most, freedom fighters. It becomes an ego trip after a while, and
Yeah.
the vision is lost, and they're willing to hurt a lot of people in order to get to point B, where maybe, yeah, could we solve this with dialogue? Who knows? But in either case, the so this oh my god, this first episode, it's introducing all these elements, and it's new to the viewers, so we're all kind of like, who are these people? What's really going on? Gul Dukat is totally pissed off, and he's trying to.
Oh my god, he was my favorite thing about these episodes. He was
Hmm.
so amazing. He was so amazing because like
Incredibly.
he's been introduced as this big bad villain, which he is. He is a big bad villain.
Yes.
But he is also a diplomat, and this showed that diplomat side of him, where like to the point where he and Cisco are like a super team.
Yeah, they are, and they want to find out the truth because they don't know what's going on, so he teams up
Yeah,
with Cisco. They take the ship out to the DMZ, and they find two Cardassian vessels attacking a Federation merchant ship,
yeah,
and they won't stop. But then this unid'd Federation vessel appears to destroy a Cardassian ship, and that again, it's more fuel to the fire of what is going on. So you get both sides of this. Cisco is weighing it all in his head because he's like, shit, well, are the Cardassians attacking unprovoked? Are the Maquis the ones that are instigating things? What is happening? And this is going to create, a major conflict, because for the
yeah.
Cardassians, they see them
Oh,
as the Federation.
Cisco stops World War III basically.
Yes, exactly. Because Cisco's like, I need to stop these people because they are going to attack Cardassia, which gets right into episode 2. Uh, and if I don't, it's going to be hell to pay for everybody, because the Cardassians see these folks as part of the Federation. And also, while all of this is going on, Sakoma approaches Quark to negotiate a business arrangement, okay, which is to acquire an array of weapons. Okay, so there's this whole thing
Yeah.
going on.
Oh, the Vulcan bitch. The Vulcan bitch.
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
Which,
Vulcan girl. Vulcan girl.
no, she was a bitch.
Yeah.
But Quark again, like willing or not willing.
Succumbs to his lobes, man.
Yes. Uh, and they want to end. The episode ends here, with them capturing Ducat. Okay, and
Yeah.
also DS, what's his name, Cisco finds out, which wasn't a big surprise, that the his friend Hudson is one of the leaders of the Maquis.
Yeah,
uh,
they tracked him and they beam down to the planet, and his buddy is like fucking king shit of the revolution.
Yes, and this is where Cisco, they do find Ducat, so that's not a big storyline. It's just kind of a way to get Cisco to get face to face with his friend, and this is where he asked Cisco to join him, and this is where Cisco is all about Starfleet and the uniform, and that becomes a very
Yeah.
important theme and
Well,
a layer.
literally about the uniform, because his buddy gives him his uniform. He hands it
Yes.
back. He's like, I'm done with Starfleet. Like, here's my uniform. And
Hmm.
Cisco actually carries it around in a bag, and I think at least twice tries to give it back to him.
Yeah.
And then he vaporizes it.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, so the strong themes of what it means to be a Starfleet officer, what does the Federation mean, and all that stuff is brought up again later. But this is one, sprinkling seed. Although Quark supposedly doesn't know anything about the Maquis, and he does arrange for Sakoma to acquire the weapons. And he, when Cisco gets back on the ship, in Cisco, Quark's
This
all,
is
no,
another one of those times when Quark should have been thrown in jail forever.
exactly,
He supplied weapons to terrorists, and he
yeah,
gets caught. And they're just like, well, you're. We wouldn't have a bar if it wasn't without you. So you get a pass.
yes. Uh, and Ducat is trying to they're what they're trying to do a Vulcan mind meld with Ducat, which he resists because
Yeah, yeah, he's really good at that, man.
now what's the
Like,
scene? I'm getting the things
that
mixed up
that's
because
actually episode 2, I think.
this is
Though.
episode 2. Yeah, I'm kind of just going through all of them here
All
because
right,
there's
so we're
also a
on to
great
episode
scene.
2
Yeah, because there's a great scene, and I can't remember if it's in episode 1 or 2, where Cisco and Ducat are on the ship, and they're trying to get it to stop so that they can check to see if there's devices on the ship or something, and like Cisco's trying to do it the Starfleet way, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then Ducat
and
gets in it.
Ducat totally trumps him.
Yeah.
He trumps him. He's like, I'm Gold Ducat. I had this title, whatever his title is.
Oh, this
He's
is
like,
episode 2. Yeah, Cold
yeah,
Ducat
yeah,
scares the shit out of the captain of the ship smuggling weapons. And
yeah. If you
Starfleet
don't
just
let
says,
me on
"Good
the
luck."
ship, you're fucking dead in 15 seconds. And he
Yes,
counts down to I think 2. And they're like, okay, okay, okay.
exactly.
But
Um,
yeah, that's what I loved about the this two-parter is that Gul Dukat was shown as a very complex character. Like he is evil in conventional 21st century morality type of ways, but if you look at the context of his culture, like he's just a bureaucrat trying to make his way in life, and it's hard to judge him too harshly.
well, yeah, until he does some really fucked up shit and you realize he's a psychopath.
Okay, I haven't gotten that far yet, but
Oh, yeah, yeah,
hey,
yeah.
in this episode, like his context seemed pretty relevant. Like he's like, look, I'm just trying to make my country a better place, right?
Exactly. And he doesn't want, and it might just be for financial reasons, because that's the thing, I mean, he's thinking as they just had a decades long war with Bajor. They can't get
Exactly,
into the
exactly.
conflict. Uh, does he, if he could, would he storm into DS9 and take everything back? Sure. Can they do
Yeah,
that? Not really.
yeah,
So he's
yeah.
doing his best to, like, let's avoid, like you said, World War III in space, if possible. Is it my wish? No. My wish would be to take over everything. Which is
Yeah,
why the Cardassians do end up siding with the Dominion when you get there. I mean, that's not a huge spoiler, but yes, because they're like, this is our chance to
yeah,
finally.
but he is an asshole. Like that's the one thing I like about it is like he's an asshole, but he's got some pragmatic qualities.
Yes, very pragmatic. Well, the Cardassians are very meticulous people, as Garrick explains, and we get a little bit more insight on the Cardassian legal system, where the verdict is known before the trial, and the person is always guilty.
Yeah,
And why do you have a trial? Because people like to watch justice triumph
yeah,
over evil.
yeah,
uh, and I do like when Ducat says, "Thank you for my rescue." Cisco's like, "I'm sure you would have done the same for me."
yeah.
Um,
So sarcastic. That was such a burn.
yes, uh, and basically, it comes down to this stopping this conflict. And one way that you got to stop this conflict is not getting these weapons to the Maquis ships, because that's the main crux of this. In Quark, like you said, he should have been like tossed out an airlock for what
Yeah,
he did or was attempting to do, which was selling these
He was a
trying to sell.
slave for the Vulcan pussy.
Yeah, trying to
Uh,
sell these.
vagina.
Um, Trying to sell these weapons to the Maquis, and but Quark is useful in the end. What saves him, I guess, is that he's the one that can get Sakoma to reveal what it is that the Maquis are planning to do, which is attack, blow up a Cardassian weapon depot in the next 52 hours. But she doesn't know where it is. But Dukat
Yeah,
says, "I'm going to find out," and this leads us right into the second really great line in this episode, which I had up here. Where the hell is it now? It's gone. But it's our Quark explaining the price of peace, in a
hmm
very capitalist sense. There,
yeah, exactly. The rule of
no, in a
acquisition:
logical sense. In a logical sense.
never pay more for something than you should.
Exactly. He uses the rules of acquisition, and it's so cool how he's able to blend that into the Vulcan sense of logic.
Yeah,
So he says they have
yeah. If you
weapons.
don't do this now, it's going to be more expensive later.
Exactly, because it's like they have weapons, you have weapons. Everyone has weapons, but right now, no one has a clear advantage. So the price of peace is at an all-time low. This is the perfect time to sit down and hammer out an agreement. Don't you get it? Attacking the Cardassians now will only make peace more expensive in the long run.
Yeah,
Now I ask you, is that logical? And
yeah.
the Vulcan has to respect. And also, aside from that, he does have this little one-off line that I like about how the Vulcans are a species that appreciates good years.
Yeah,
So uh, he does have a little bit of humor in there. So I guess that's what saves him from being pushed out an airlock is the fact that hey, in the end, he does help save the day because he's able to get
yeah.
Sukkot
Yeah,
to.
he's got a talent for that, man.
That's his thing, man. That's his thing. He's able to get her to give up the plan, and the end is the big showdown between Cisco and his old friend. And Ducat is like,
I know. The cop fucking bitches Cisco out, and
exactly.
I don't completely blame him,
Of course
right?
not.
I think like if you're a Federation officer and it's your job to stop terrorism, then like you got to shoot this motherfucker. And
Exactly.
as a Cardassian, Ducat's like, yeah, especially shoot this motherfucker. But he
Yes.
can't because he's his old friend, and we can forgive that.
It's his old friend, and I think a part of Cisco understands their side. And he
He digs
wants,
inside, yeah,
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 and he wants,
exactly. His whole like like on Earth there's no poverty speech. So
yes,
we already know where he's coming from.
exactly. And whereas for Ducat, one of it I think is just him being sadistic and being like, oh, he's got to shoot one of his own. It's like friendly fire. It's like imagine a police officer having to shoot another police officer because he's gone berserk. It's like it's
Right.
not something that I imagine a police officer would be very want to do. It's like
Oh,
I
it
can,
wouldn't.
you know,
I mean, it might have happened at some point in human history, but
yeah.
doubt it happens too frequently.
Yes. So that's the so Ducat, and also Ducat needs to know that Cisco recognizes these people as terrorists and not, misguided, So
Yeah, yeah,
uh, he's got all the cards. He's got all the cards. Cisco's in a tough position,
yeah,
and he ends up, not um, what do you call it? Shooting down his old friend.
yeah. No, he lets him go. But this was a
Well, but
great
don't
Ducat.
they? Uh, Cisco's engine and Hudson's weapons are inoperable. Over Ducat's objection, Cisco allows Hudson to escape, uh, but Cisco wonders: has he prevented a war or merely delayed the inevitable?
Mhm.
So there
Yeah,
is that
but
too.
it was a great Ducat episode. Like, oh my god, like because like in the first season he's introduced as this most sinister villain, and you get layers to him in the second season, where it's like, okay, he is still a sinister villain, but
Yeah.
he has reasons. So I really appreciated what this brought to the Goldicott table.
Yes. And I will give credit here for this being an episode with a lot of, we were talking about the special effects weren't that great,
Hmm.
but it has some decent space battles here. Not great. And I will tell you this, Pete, because I told you I started season 4. There's a jump in quality that's like, wow, it's noticeable, it's palpable,
Yeah.
like everything just pops off the screen. So I guess they managed to get some money there, but pretty decent space battle for a Star Trek early Star Trek season 2 episode, and it introduces us to just another element out there in the wild wild west of
Hmm.
the
The
edge of the
colonies.
the edge of the alpha quadrant, and where anything can happen. And that goes back to kind of our first podcast episode where the writer said, hey, yeah, we want to make this like a western town, the western in
Hmm.
space, where
Yeah, yeah. No, the Wild West vibe actually picks up. It picks up quite a bit in season two from season one.
it does and it only gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So guys, I think we're done for today. This was a
So shall we be.
uh, great little chunk of episodes, at least compared to last week for me. Although, let's go back and do our skip and watch. Playing God, which I already even forgot.
Uh,
Oh, that's the
yeah,
proto universe.
playing God is a definite skip.
That's a skip. Profit and loss.
Profit and Loss is a watch for me, largely because I'm just like digging into the cult of Quark.
Yeah, and for me, it's not like a great episode. Like I said, I forgot most of it. Then I got my memory jogged, and I remember liking it. But for you, it was Cork, and for me, it's more the cult of Garrick. Really grows in this episode. It's
Right.
a great Garrick episode. So
Well, both of those things are great.
yes, so I would watch it. It's not the best, but it's entertaining enough. And then we got Blood Oath.
Yeah, I know. I know you love this episode, but I'm gonna say skip. Didn't do a lot for me really.
Yeah, I gotta say,
Although we spent like 50% of the podcast talking
I know.
about it.
Uh, Well, for me, it's a watch if you're into Klingon culture on Star Trek, any Star Trek. If you want to see the old school Trek characters back, and you want to get an interesting Dax episode where she's got to make this real tough decision about who is Dax really? Is she still Curzon? Is she not? And that goes all the way back to that episode we reviewed way back when. And they don't ever really answer in a very satisfactory fashion who is Dax really, or who is Jadzia really.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think this got a lot of cool elements to it. And then we got the Maquis Part 1.
Yeah, good episode. Definite. I mean, it's essential, really, isn't it?
Yeah, this
I
is
mean, I mean,
essential. Yes, that.
I don't know my Trek mythology that well, but I would think that this winds up being pretty important. So you kind of
Oh,
got to
yes, it
watch it.
does. Wait till
Yeah,
you get,
yeah. So
wait till you get to the climax of this of what Cisco's willing to do to stop the Maquis.
yeah, yeah. So I
That's
would say
bald
this
headed.
is
That's bald headed Cisco. That's when Cisco gave. He's on zero fucks mode. So wait till
yeah,
you get
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
definitely, you got
Space.
to watch this episode to
Yeah,
to to.
it's important. I would say it is lesser than part two, but you gotta watch part one to get to part two.
Exactly, and they're entertaining, and uh, and it's an example of early season Deep Space Nine just hitting for the fences. Doesn't always make it, but it gets pretty far, you know? And it shows that, hey,
Hmm.
we can do this. And let's just we'll put a little bit more oil here, tighten the screw here, and then we start getting season 3, season 4, 5, onward, where it's like, oh shit, you can do this. But these episodes are essential to get you to that
Yeah.
coming up. Okay, so thank you to everybody who hung out with us for an hour and a half. Um, we will be back next week, Lord willing. I will be back on Thursday, Lord willing. Maybe or maybe not, because anyway, that's another issue. But I should be either Thursday or Friday. There should be a Star Trek: Strange New World video dropping, and I thank everybody who's watching those videos and like, share, subscribe, and comment below, please. I like the comments. Till next time, folks. Adios. Good night.